Hello to everyone. Thank you all for joining me at this time. My name is Shabi Zane, and I'm coming on to bring a message for you all. First, in regards to a dream that I had, and then I want to get off a little bit more into digging a little bit deeper in terms of what this might mean for the collective, especially the spiritual community. So, first of all, the dream that I had recently, it was actually last night. Um, I don't remember all of it, but the parts that I do recall, I want to share with you. So, I ended up traveling into a church, okay? Now, I wasn't physically present in this church. I was actually looking at it from whatever realm I was in, okay? And the pastor stood before the congregation, and it was a melanated man. He had on the long robe, whatever you might call the pastor's robe. It was black and red, okay? And he stood before the congregation and he said specifically, um, there is a woman by the name of Shavi Zane speaking about me, and she has the audacity to read from biblical scripture. She has the audacity to stand before the world and to say that she believes in the Most High God. And so he said to the congregation, he said, go and look her up. So everybody, mostly women though, I didn't see any men, but the women, they took out their pens, they took out their phones, and they started looking me up. Some was writing my name down inside of their notepad. You know, you take notes in church. And the other ones was looking my name up in their phone, trying to find my channel. And so that part of my dream ended. And I was taken to another part of my dream where I was shown a visual. And it looks similar to this, okay? This is what the visual looked like. This is the best way that I can define it. And what happened is, in this visual, the cross that is in the center here began to collapse. And this entire structure that was attached to the cross surrounding it also fell in. It's like it all began to cave in. So I ended up waking up and I was like, okay, so what is this all about? Right away, in terms of the pastor speaking against me, I knew for a fact that there is a pastor out there somewhere that has seen my message and is in direct opposition to it. Okay, there might be even more than one, but there's definitely one specifically who is targeting or who has real, venom when it comes to the work that I do. And what I took from that is, first and foremost, there's getting ready to be a lot of opposition from the religious structure to the spiritual community. Okay. Now, there's already been opposition. Most of you who have taken the road less traveled, who have taken the narrow path, have already received that opposition from certain family members, friends, and some of you have also been turned away from your own church because you might have been too inquisitive. You might have had too much spiritual insight, and it might have been very intimidating. And so you might have been, outcasted from your particular church. Okay. But either way, many of you who have taken a spiritual path are well aware of the fact that there has been opposition for quite some time now, but it is now heightened, okay? The energy is now gaining momentum concerning the pastor or the religious structure versus spirituality, okay? Now, for some of you who are not aware of what spirituality is, you can go with the definition that you might find, if you just look it up. Let me just tell you the definition of spirituality, right? So it is considered to be the recognition of feeling a sense of belief that there is something greater than yourself, okay? So you recognize that there is something greater out there that created you and that created the world, the cosmos, the universe, okay? The elements. You recognize that there is a creator of all things. Now, many of you may call it different names. You might call it by different names. I personally call it the Most High God. I address Father Yah. I address Mother. Okay. I see it as being two, in terms of the masculine and feminine energy that came together to create all things. Now, many of these pastors and religious structures are very, very concerned about that. Okay. Whether you see it from my perspective or from a different perspective, they're concerned about the fact that you don't see it based on their teachings, based on tradition, based on the boxed in perspective of what the Most High or who the Most High is. If you are not taking it specifically from the biblical text and expressing who the Most High is based on scripture, then they are automatically outcasting you and saying that you are into devil worshiping or that you do not believe in the Most High God. They will tell you that you are a witch, that you are a warlock, and that you are everything but a chosen seed. They will tell you that you are everything, that you have every intention but giving reverence and honor and praise to the Most High God, the creator of all things, okay? And so I strongly sensed that that dream was showing me that there is definitely getting ready to be a very clear opposition where the pastors, it's almost like they're going to have a group conference behind the scenes that says every church needs to have a sermon every Sunday that is in direct opposition to the spiritual community. Okay, so if you all start to see more messages that comes from pastors who are well known, or if you have people in your family that comes to you and says, well, my pastor today had a sermon against what you're doing, against the spiritual community, then just know that it is very clear and apparent that there is a strong agenda, largely because let me finish the dream first, because this cross that collapsed, I strongly feel that this was a clear sign, that vision that was given to me in my dream, and this cross caving in and every other part of the structure that surrounded it caving in with the cross is a clear sign that there is a destruction that is happening to the traditional religious belief system, specifically surrounding Christianity, the Roman Catholic Church, and all of these different things where like that's the head, and then you have all of these different branches. Okay, within a melanated community, you all may know AME, Baptist, Episcopal. It's so many different ones. Okay, you can hardly keep up with the names of these different branches, but they all come together underneath one specific structure, which is the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, and so there is specific messages that they have to bring out and put forward to the masses, in order to maintain their position in terms of whether it's the tax dollars or the tax cuts, whatever it is that they get behind the scenes connected to the U.S. corporation and other power structures that need them to push a certain agenda in order to keep people asleep and to keep people from rising into their own divinity. And so I did see the collapse of the religious structure happening very rapidly. And not only once the religious structure caves in, all of the other power structures that was being held up by the matrix itself, because that's what I saw. When I saw this, I felt like I had been risen up into, the cosmos to look down at the matrix that had been created in the spiritual realm through this religious structure. And I was seeing the actual destruction and the collapse of it. But first, the collapse of the belief system had to come down. So the cross for me symbolizes sacrifice. Okay, I've already told you all in a past message. It's called Christ was a ritualistic sacrifice, where it's been revealed to me that Christ did not come to be killed, but instead he was killed because of what he came to do. So it was not him coming in to say, here I am, come and take me out, so that this is a symbolic of my sacrifice. No, just like many other messiahs that have been raised up since Christ have been killed off by this particular system, the U.S. corporation, and many others who are above them, who they work for. They're the cat's paw for many other power structures, okay, wicked power structures. There's been many messiahs that have been killed off because they came in to do something great and to awaken people to their own power and to teach them that they did not have to be up underneath the feet or the footstool of a lot of these so-called people that's in power. And so anytime you have someone coming in that's in opposition, excuse me, that's in opposition to what's being taught and pushed, then of course there is murders that take place. And so the collapse of the cross to me represents the collapse of all of the sacrifices that have been done against the messiahs, and those who came in with Christ consciousness, who came in fully in their power and ready to teach people to take back their own. So that's coming down. A lot of these pastors are very concerned about the spiritual community because they recognize that when you see things from that perspective, from the spiritual perspective, first of all, you're taking the narrow path. That's from off jump. You're taking the narrow path. The wide path is religion. Most of the world is Christian. And if they're not Christian, then they're probably Muslim. But most of the world is Christian. This is something that has been pushed across the globe by the so-called powers that were, stripping people of their own culture and their spiritual beliefs and enforcing Christianity on them and telling them that if you don't believe in it, then you're going to go to hell. If you do believe in it, then a white man will come down and lift you up and take you on to heaven, okay? The intimidation factor comes in where most of the spiritual community, when you go into your spiritual awakening and you go through the cocoon phase, or what some might like to call hermit, going into hermit mode, or doing the shadow work, you are literally, it's you, the Most High God, and your spiritual team. That's it, and that's all. And what happens is you end up evolving to a place where you're able to move mountains. You're able to do big and great things far beyond what many of these pastors have been able to do. You're able to heal people, like literally in your Christ consciousness, because Christ came and said, greater works than me shall ye do. So it's like you awaken your Christ consciousness in this energy of evolving and transforming, absent the religious structure, and suddenly you come out ready to do great things that many of these pastors do not have the gift of being able to do, because they have limited their potential, or they have become so blinded by the financial gain, so blinded by the power, and so blinded by what it offers to their ego in terms of having many people come to their feet and sitting at their footstool saying, can you pray for me? Can you absolve this thing for me? Can you heal me? Can you set me free? Can you save me? It does something to their ego. And so they don't teach people how to heal themselves, but yet they teach them that they need to be the healer. They are the leader. They are the ones that have been anointed with these gifts. And so they need people to be in a lower state. They have a problem with the spiritual community because the spiritual community is all about evolving. We recognize that there's no such thing as you've learned all that you can learn. We recognize that you are forever a student and a teacher. You are a student, then you are a teacher, and then you are a student again. And so we're ever evolving, and we're always seeking more wisdom. And another reason why the pastors are very concerned is because when you become spiritual and you recognize that there is a creator that is greater than you, much of your wisdom doesn't come from one single man that you go sit before or amongst every Sunday, and you give your money to. No, it comes from the universe. Much of your wisdom comes from your observation of nature, your experiencing of life itself, your recollection of your Akashic records, your awakening of your DNA, your remembrance of your past lives and how you got here and what your mission is. Much of your recollection comes from your observance of the cosmos. And the pastors recognize that when you have that type of connection, when your eyes are awakened spiritually, when your first eye, many of you call it the first eye or the third eye, when it is awakened, you cannot be boxed in by one person's teachings, one person who was placed into what you might call it, pastoral school, and was given specific texts and was told, this is how you interpret it. This is the way that you're going to feed it to them. There's nothing outside of that. We stay strictly to this. They recognize that you are well evolved and that there's no limitation to the understanding that you can have, because there's infinite possibilities out here. When you become spiritual, you recognize that there are infinite possibilities out here. And so you put no limitations on the Most High God. So, nor when you don't put limitations on the Most High God, then you also don't put limitations on your own growth and your own expansion and your own wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, right? And so there's an intimidation factor there. One thing that I did know, that I did see about the dream, though, is that the good thing, because they think that they're working against us, and creating an illusion or a picture of what spirituality looks like by projecting something off onto it where it looks wicked or it looks like it's in opposition of the Most High God. But what they're actually doing, and they don't see it yet, is they're opening up the door for those who are in their congregation who have yet to be exposed. They're still asleep. They're in a deep sleep. But the moment that their pastor says something, they take notice. Suddenly their ears begin to open. And so what happens is, out of curiosity, just like that pastor said, well, Shavi Zane is she has the audacity to read scripture. She has the audacity to say that she believes in a Most High God, but she's doing XYZ. Those same people wrote my name down. Those same people looked up my channel through their phone. And what's going to happen from there is people will end up being presented with a choice. They will be presented with a path. They will be presented with an alternate opportunity that they did not have, or that they might not have even known existed prior to the mentioning of my name or the mentioning of your name, whoever you are and what you've been called to do. Okay. And so this is where the door gets opened for those who are supposed to catch the boat. Okay. And there will be many who will go and check it out and say, oh yeah, pastor was right. She's definitely practicing witchcraft, and she definitely doesn't believe in the Most High God. She has no right putting her mouth on the scripture and all this other stuff. And they'll be, in complete opposition to what I do. But then you will have those who will see it, and it will ignite something in them. They will come into remembrance about something, about in terms of who they are, what they was placed here to do. Suddenly their perspective of the Most High becomes more open and vast, and they start to see like, man, I have been boxing in the potential of the creator of all things. Like I said in one of my past messages, you cannot place the Most High in one book. And anybody that tells you that the Most High can be placed in one book is narrow-minded, and they have a lot of growing to do. And you want to run as fast and as far as you can, because the Most High created all things down to the millions and billions of cells that's within your body. They're all uniquely formed and created for just you as one vessel, one avatar. Okay. And so the infinite possibilities of what exists out here concerning what the Most High has created, we're not even, and that's just on this planet alone. We're talking about a universe that stretches far and wide and is never ending. And so this is what the powers that were wanted the masses to believe, that if you step outside of the religious constructs, if you step outside of the traditional belief systems, you are most certainly in opposition to the Most High God. You are practicing in evil. You are going to hell. And one thing is that, religion gives it gives you limited options. Okay, it puts a lot of limitations on a person's growth and their seeking potential. Okay, you know that most churches will tell you, if you look into anything outside of biblical texts, then it's wrong. Everything that you need to know about the Most High God is right there in one book, and that it cannot exist from any other source. That's what your pastor wants you to believe, because in that energy, in that belief system, there is no room for growth. And where there's no room for growth, then your pastor or the person who stands before you in that church will always stand higher than you. Why? Because he is technically the professional. He is technically the one that has been given the authority to interpret biblical scripture. And so because he wears the robe and because he stands higher than you upon the pulpit, and he's adorned with all of these different things and he's called pastor, then suddenly you are only to remain a sheep. He is the pastor that guides you wherever you need to go, and your position is to remain the sheeple, just walking zombies, pretty much believing in everything that is told to you from this particular person, male or female, because they've been given a certificate. I think it's a certificate that the pastors get by someone who said, I taught you this way. And so because you learned the way that I taught you to interpret scripture, you have done a great job. You get an A plus because this scripture, you interpreted it exactly the way that I taught you to. And so now you are equipped to go and teach the people what I told you to teach them. Don't veer away from it, because if you go too far left or if you go too far right, then you just might spark some wires, or some aha moments just might fire off in people's minds. So you stay right here in the middle and you tell them to walk the same narrow line, because if they step outside of this box, then you already know we're losing control. Okay. And so this is where people are always willing to give their last dollar, to give their last dime to someone that they feel is elevated above them, someone that they feel has a divine connection that they themselves cannot create. But consider, like I said, Christ said, greater works than me shall ye do. When you come across a leader or a teacher, even in a spiritual community, if they are not teaching you how to become your own practitioner, then you want to look into a different direction. There's nothing wrong with going to someone who possesses or who has awakened that can give you some that can give you some information or some wisdom that will help to awaken within you that wisdom. But just know that we all possess wisdom. We all possess understanding. It's just a matter of awakening to it, deconditioning yourself, healing yourself, and creating that divine connection to the Most High so that you can tap into it. Okay? We all possess the potential to be able to do it. And so any good leader or teacher or healer is always going to come in with the intention of awakening you and then giving you the tools that you need to continue on your journey without holding your hand. Okay? Along the entire way. Maybe for a portion of your journey, you might need that person in your life, but many of these pastors want you to believe, no, you're a member of this church. You are to remain a member of this church until you die. And when you die, I'm going to be the one that stands above your casket and perform your funeral, because you was a good servant. You was a good sheep that stayed amongst the pastor. Okay. You maintained your position amongst the flock. And because of this, you have now been given the reward of going to heaven. I was having a conversation with one of my sons recently, my oldest son, and I asked him, I says, what do you believe that hell exists when a person is still alive? Can a person that's alive experience hell? And he said, yes. I said, well, how can they experience hell? He mentioned being abused. He mentioned being imprisoned. He mentioned dealing with racism. He mentioned police brutality. He mentioned being strung out on drugs. He had a list of things that defined hell in the flesh. And so I said, well, can a person experience heaven in the flesh? And obviously he had a list of things to show that it could, that a person can also experience heaven in the flesh. And so heaven and hell is a perception. Heaven and hell is a state of being. Okay. There's many people that go to the church structure every single Sunday who have been living in hell all of their lives. And every single Sunday they go to have the pastor redeem them from the same hell that they're going to walk right back into the moment that they walk outside of that door. Many of the pastors who are out here who claim that those of us in the spiritual community are practicing witchcraft, they point the finger largely because they themselves question their own belief system. It is a projection of energy, because you cannot tell me that anytime you go every first Sunday and you sit before people and you say, here is my flesh, eat of my flesh, here is my blood, drink of my blood, that is a performance of cannibalism. That is a ritual of cannibalism. It is an example of cannibalism. And of course, you all know that many people who practices dark rituals, they do sacrifices, human sacrifices on people where they drink their blood and they eat their flesh in order to empower them. Specifically, many of these people within the Catholic structure, a lot of these priests and things of that nature have been doing these things behind the scenes, especially to little children, because they believe that the energy of the child is heightened, is untainted, is innocent. And so it's going to empower them and give them longevity and youth and all of these sick things that they attach to these children that they sacrifice on a regular basis. There is a threat to the religious community. The religious leaders are feeling threatened by those of us who have been given a position by the Most High God to be the example and the physical representation of Christ consciousness, the physical and spiritual representation of Christ consciousness. They have a major, major problem with that. And so they're getting ready to they're going to speak out about this openly to their congregations. And for some of you who have platforms, they may even mention your name. But this is where the Most High said, I'm going to elevate you. I'm going to exalt you before your enemies. And so while they think that they're doing something against you, what's happening is your voice is being heard and projected even more through those people who are trying to deter people from you. They're actually going to open up the door for those who are supposed to hear your message, for those who have been, their soul and their spirit has been craving a deeper understanding outside of what they've been taught for generations, okay? Or for the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years of their life. Their soul has been craving a deeper understanding, but they could not get that from their pastor because the moment they raise their hand to ask a question, they get shut down. And the fear tactics that have been embedded within them, telling them that if you seek, then you are stepping outside of the boundaries, which means that you don't love the Most High. You are not a child of the Most High. You are now opening up the door to send yourself straight to hell because you are no longer using the biblical text as your foundation when it comes to your understanding of who the creator of all things is. It's an illusion that's been created, and that illusion is now collapsing right before our eyes. And so those same pastors that think that they're working against you is now putting you in a space where you become more elevated. And see, the great thing about being it's spiritual evolution and being a part of the spiritual community, Christ consciousness, is that our elevation does not stroke our ego. When we elevate, we see it as being an opportunity for more of humanity to awaken and to balance out and to evolve, because we want people to evolve. We want people to become more wise than us and more powerful than us. We want people to awaken as additional healers in the body of Christ consciousness. We are not in ego. And if you find a spiritual leader who is in their ego that fears you becoming more evolved than them, then you know that they have not fully done the work themselves to heal. You know that there's still something going on with that inner child. And you know, you with your awakened eyes are able to pinpoint that. Your discernment becomes that much more heightened. And so we do need the opposite. We know we need the polarity of everything, because the polarity allows you to see things from both ends of the spectrum and everything in between, recognizing that there is an in between. See, what religion hands you is it's either A or B, or A or Z, okay? But what religion does not tell you is that there's a whole lot of other letters that's in between A and Z, right? And so when you're being handed either it's black or white, either you take left or right, either you go up or down, okay? When you're being given those types of options and it's only two, then you're more likely to take one over the other, especially if one of them means heaven and the other one means hell. And that's the only thing that you're told about it. There's no in between. That's what religion tells you. But spirituality tells you that there is polarity, but in between the polarity, there is many different factors that create one pole versus another. There's a whole lot in between. And so you don't just walk this path that says, well, I'm not going to discover this. I'm not going to discover this perspective or that perspective, because you open yourself up to the infinite wisdom. And you can only possess infinite wisdom by seeking and gaining understanding from different perspectives. It doesn't mean that, okay, well, you've studied this and so now you're fixated on that. Because if you become fixated on any one particular understanding, then you still cut yourself off. You still limit yourself, regardless of what spiritual path it is. Okay? Regardless of what religion it is or what spiritual path it is, if you only zone in on one specific belief system, then you do limit your potential of growth. Okay. Now, not saying that if you focus in on one specific thing for a time, you evolve and then you eventually evolve out of it and you continue to evolve. And that's the great thing about spirituality, is that it's constantly an energy of rediscovery, constant transformation, constant understanding of self and your potential, and awakening that potential and rising to the occasion of that potential. Is constant evolution, even past this lifetime. It opens up the door for evolving. So this is very intimidating for them. And so there's going to be a lot of judgment that's going to start happening concerning the spiritual community. There's even been many people who have said, well, you wear crystals and crystals are wicked. Anytime and you see a person wearing crystals, they have to be practicing witchcraft and wickedness. They don't have any solid evidence behind that. They just say that it opens up doors to wickedness. But then you have to ask that same person, well, what is a crystal? And they don't know what it is. They just say it's wicked. So if a crystal is wicked, then you're saying the Most High God is wicked. Because crystals are created by the Most High God. They are formed within the core of the earth. And many of them, they look different depending on how they crystallized and, the heat and all of these different things, these, many different factors to determine what this particular mineral is made of. That's going to shape what it looks like, the color spectrums and all of these different things. But they will tell you something that the Most High God created that you take and adorn yourself with, knowing that it possesses the energy of the same earth that the Most High created. They'll tell you that it is wickedness. But then you might want to ask that same person who is so hardcore what the pastor told them, then why does your same biblical text say that when heaven is created, when the kingdom is created, it's going to be adorned with crystals? And it mentions crystals such as amethyst and rubies and jaspers and tourmalines and all of these different things that are crystals. Why does the biblical text in Revelation say that the kingdom will be adorned with these things? Ask them that same question and they'll be stumped because the pastor ain't telling them that. Okay? The kingdom is the people. The kingdom is the people who have evolved spiritually. We are the kingdom. Why? Because individually we're the temples. And collectively, when you come together and put temples together and within a community, it becomes a kingdom. And so the kingdom being adorned with the crystals, the amethysts and the rubies and the tourmalines and the things like that, is us. We are the ones who are adorned with these things. It is Christ consciousness. It is those who have awakened and who have a higher level of understanding. And then the hypocrisy of it all is your pastor will tell you that crystals are evil, but yet and still that same pastor takes your tithes and goes and buys himself diamonds, which are crystals, by the way, rubies, which are crystals, by the way, emeralds, which are crystals, by the way. He will buy his wife a set of pearls and turquoise earrings and necklaces, which are crystals, by the way, off of your dime, okay? But will turn around and say that a person who recognizes the energetic potential of these crystals, the person who recognizes the energy that is projected from these crystals and that uses these things to align themselves, to heal themselves, to balance themselves, oh, you're wicked. When you recognize what they can be used for, it becomes wickedness. But as long as you wear them in ignorance, then no, you're not wicked. You can put on your diamonds and wear your turquoise. As long as you're ignorant to the fact that they can shift your energy, then yeah, it's not wickedness then. Pastors right now, religious leaders are intimidated by the knowledge and the understanding that is gifted to the chosen, the true chosen, and those who are awakening to their Christ consciousness. Those of us who say we are spiritual because we recognize that the term spiritual gives you much more expansion in terms of your understanding and your growth. Whereas if you walk around saying, well, I am Christian, then there's a certain boxed in perspective that you must have. Because you, of course, surely you cannot be a Christian and believe that crystals can actually help to heal and balance your energy. Surely you cannot be a Christian and meditate. Surely you cannot be a Christian and go outside amongst nature and work with the elements. Surely you cannot be a Christian and have an altar in your home. These are not things that Christians do, right? Because the only altar that you should be standing in front of, or the only altar that you should be recognizing, is the one that your pastor stands on, the one that you place the money on when he's a hoo-hooing and a hoo-hawing and breathing all heavy and sweating and all types of things. That's the only altar that you should acknowledge. These are fallacies and illusions that has been created for the masses by the powers that were, because the fear was the strength that comes through the true spiritual awakening. Okay, the strength that one person is able to embody is actually able to heal many, because the energy that you project and exude is healing in and of itself. There's so many people that go to church every Sunday. They walk in broken and they walk out broken. Okay? But they are given this illusion that somehow if they sang loud enough, if they dance hard enough, if they fall out and hit their head on the floor hard enough, then suddenly there's some sort of breakthrough that they have happened. Now, I'm not discounting the fact that Christianity can be a stepping stool. But it is, I strongly, from my perspective, feel that it is base level when it comes to your spiritual evolution and that true divine connection to the Most High, and tapping into the power and the potential that has been gifted and that is naturally within you. And this is largely because of the limitations that is placed around a person gaining understanding, the limitations that's placed around a person seeking more knowledge and understanding. And so it's going to be pretty interesting, y'all. It's getting ready to get pretty interesting, okay? In terms of the religious structure and their position towards those of us who are spiritual. So get ready for that. I do want to pull from my book, The 48 Laws of Power, before we close out, just to see what is the agenda. What do we need to know in regards to the religious leaders, and what's being planned behind the scenes towards the spiritual community. What do we need to know? Whew. Listen. Okay. Now, this is big as day. So I'm going to read this because my eyes are drawn to it, okay? Some of you have this book. Some people sometimes ask me what page things are on. So this is page 254. 254, and this is Law 31. So 3 + 1 = 4. Oh, yes, they hate the numerology too. You better not mention no numbers around a pastor, okay? Because that's wickedness. Numbers and an interpretation of numbers is wickedness, right? So 3 + 1 is 4. So something about the foundation, okay? So let's see what this says. Control the options. Get others to play the cards you deal. So let's read this. It says judgment. The best deceptions are the ones that seem to give the other person a choice. The victim feels they are in control, but are actually your puppets. Give people options that come out in your favor, whichever one they choose. Force them to make choices between the lesser of two evils, both of which serve your purpose. Put them on the horns of a dilemma. They are gored wherever they turn. Choosing between the lesser of two evils. Remember, I just mentioned to you all A or Z. Either you're going to take this path or you're going to take that path. They want to make sure that they only give you one of two options. I told y'all that. The agenda is to give the masses one of two options. If you take that path over there, automatically you do not love the Most High God. If you step outside of Christianity and what is being taught to you by your pastor, you do not love the Most High. But if you stay up underneath the footstool of your pastor, and if you continue to pay your tithes and you continue to only reference the biblical text as your source of understanding, then you will go to heaven. The lesser of two evils, okay? They only want to give, it says, control the options. So the pastors, these religious leaders, wants to control the options that you have. Again, spirituality is you having infinite potential, infinite possibilities. And so there is no one there to pull at your coat strings to say, no, you must take this route. No, it's open, because the Most High said, I am all things. The Most High is not boxed in. When you box in the Most High God, that is the most offensive thing that you can do to the creator of all. And this is what these religious leaders do. And so it says the best deceptions, so they want to deceive, okay, are the ones that seem to give the other person a choice. So remember, in my dream, the pastor stood up and said, oh, that Shavi Zane, she's out there. She has the audacity to read from scripture. She has the audacity to say that she loves the Most High God. And here's everybody looking up Shavi Zane. Oh, who is this witch that the pastor speaks of? Who is this woman who is in opposition, or who speaks these things but has no right to do it? And so it's to control the options. And so it's to say, when you go and seek understanding, or when you go and look up this person, the only option that you have when you listen to her message is to be in opposition to it, to be in favor of what I say, because I have been given the authority to say that the wisdom that I give you is that of the Most High God. I've been given the authority to tell you that. But she over there has not been given the authority, because it steps outside of the boxed in boundaries that we have been instructed to give you as pastors, and that as pastors we have given to you. If you step outside of it, just know that when you go listen to her, the only opinion that you should have of her message is that it is wickedness. That's the options, okay? Because the best deception are the ones that seem to give the other person a choice. And so they come off as if they are giving the masses of the congregation a choice. These religious leaders want to come off as if they're giving them a choice by saying, go and look into this, but just know that if you take that path, where it's going to lead you. Or if you stay here, heaven is at your doorfront. You are knocking on the doors of heaven. You take that path, you're knocking on the doors of hell. And so your victims, listen to this, your victims feel they are in control. So these are victims. Those who are sitting at the footstool of many of these corrupt religious leaders are victims, okay? Victims of the religious structure. And that's why I saw the cross collapsing, because it was not built on a solid foundation. And I just mentioned foundation, right? The number 4 is foundation. It was not built on a solid foundation. It was built on lies. It was built on sacrifice, murder, using that same cross to put it in front of the door fronts of many melanated people, or placing melanated people on these crosses like they did with Yeshua, and sacrificing them in front of many, in front of other eyes to see, because it was a ritualistic sacrifice, spell work, dark magic that has been done from these same crosses. Okay, these crosses, that's all about the distorted and perverted masculine energy, eliminating the feminine energy, which that's what the Ankh stands for, both the feminine and the masculine energy, merging the two together, because that is the natural way of things, right? The Most High created the masculine and feminine energy to come together to create new life, okay, for the continuation of life, to continue the circle of life. But when you omit one and only put the energy out of the other, what they did was they brought forward a distorted masculine energy, omitting the feminine, placing the feminine on the back end, and saying, this is what you worship. This is what is dominating, okay? And so the victims feel they are in control, but are actually your puppets. So the puppet master, a lot of these religious leaders, they are stringing them along, okay, as puppets. Like I said, the pastor who guides the sheep, the flock, the zombie, the blind people walking amongst one another, who says that the pastor is the only one that has eyes to see and ears to hear, because he has a certificate, he wears a robe, he drives a Cadillac, okay, and he stands on the altar, which stands above myself, okay, because of course you sit down and the pastor stands up higher than you, and so that's an automatic, your subconscious mind automatically believes that the one who stands above you is the one that is in authority, or in a position of authority over you, and so he has a more direct contact to the Most High because he stands higher. It's all psychological mind play. But because these people are victims to the religious structure and have become puppets to the religious structure, they end up falling right into the hands of people who do not have the right intentions for them, people who want to control their options and get others to play the cards that they deal. Okay. And so give people options that come out in your favor, whichever one they choose. And so, yes, let me place an option before you that still works in my favor. So I'm going to place a fear tactic. I'm going to use a fear tactic against you that says, again, you take that route, it's not going to work for you. Okay, go ahead. Because they might even stand up there and tell them, y'all go ahead and take that route if you want to. I want y'all, I want to see y'all take that path. And you'll see the outcome of taking that route. So you create the fear so that for those people who have one foot in and one foot out, soon as they walk up out the door, they're walking down that path in fear from the jump. And so many of them might automatically run back to the church, because now as their spiritual eyes continue to open, all they're seeing is those things that project the same fear that was placed within them by that religious leader. And so they end up not being able to see past or see through the fear, or continue to push forward in their spiritual journey, teaching themselves how to heal and decondition their minds so that they can eliminate the fear. And so as they're taking that narrow path, which it ain't a lot of people on that path, it's almost like walking through the wilderness. You have one path here and one path there, one that's very, very wide. And you have a lot of people that's walking that path. So it's a lot less scary when you got a whole lot of other people that believe in the same thing and is walking that same path. But when you take the narrow path means that it's only but so many people that can walk that path at one time, because it ain't wide enough for a lot of people to go. And so when you walk in that path from the energy of fear, and when your spiritual eyes are beginning to open, the only thing that you're going to see is a direct reflection and depiction of that which has been placed within you, which is nothing but fear. So you might automatically think that everything is demonic, everything is this, everything is witchcraft, everything is that, because you have not been able to decondition yourself first. So they want to send you out there in the energy of fear because it works in their favor. The moment you step out there, you're going to run back. Okay? Or you might go a little bit down that path and then you're going to turn right back around and reroute, because that's another form of witchcraft and spell work. Okay? projecting fear off into a person, placing the energy of fear. First of all, fear is very low vibrational. And so when you are functioning from fear, you are also in survival mode. And in survival mode, you are easily attacked by lower level entities because you don't understand the power that you possess. And so that's just like when it comes to just like say a dog, for instance. If you are functioning from the energy of fear, that dog will sense that because fear is an energy, it's a vibration that is projected. And so the dog will sense that you feel inferior to it. And so it'll be more likely to attack you. Same thing goes for a little tiny bee. If you swatting at a bee because it's flying around you and that bee is going to sting you. Even though at the end of the day, that bee is way more scared of you because they're facing a giant. But you sitting up here swatting at something that is far less, it can't touch you. But the fear is what creates the power for that entity or that being or that animal. You see what I'm saying? And so that is the strategic plan and the agenda of the pastor or the religious leader, is to send you down that path to make it seem as if they're giving you the option to take that road, but they want to send you out there with as much fear as possible so that anything that comes in your way as your eyes continue to open, you automatically run back to the church and say, Pastor was right, because ultimately they want it to work out in their favor. And so lastly, it says, yes, force them to make choices between the lesser of two evils, both of which serve your purpose. Put them in the horns of a dilemma. They are gored wherever they turn. Okay, so I'm assuming the term gored, I'm associating with the term like gory. I don't know, but I feel like it's a fear. It's like that term of, that sense of fear. And I might be describing it wrong because I'm not really familiar with the term gored, but I'm hearing gory when I see it. So it's like gory, that energy of things that's just, chaotic, is scary, and so it's all to incite fear, to place you in this position of not wanting to take the road less traveled. But again, everything that the enemy tries to do, the Most High always makes sure that it actually boomerangs back and it ends up working in the favor of those who are truly operating from integrity, who have the right intention, and that truly have the real divine connection to the Most High God. And so mention my name in as many churches as you want to, but trust and believe, if there's even just one person who sees my message and they are able to evolve and awaken and have and take back their power, to break generational curses, to heal themselves and to step into their divinity and their purpose, then I have done my job. In spite of the whole church can be in opposition to what I do, but that one person that was released and freed from that structure and from that zombie-like system, that was able to evolve, that's a big deal for me. That's a big deal for the Most High God. I'm simply a vessel. And I'm going to do what I've been called to do in spite of. And those of you who have been given the call, who have taken the call, don't allow the opposition to deter you from your calling. Continue to do the work and know that ultimately it works out for the greater good, in the favor of those who do not have evil intentions, just to control and to keep people in a submissive and passive state through fear tactics, okay, and illusion. Remember this image. It was shown to me. This structure is collapsing inward. When this cross collapsed inward, so did every other facet of its structure. So I love you all. If you want a private reading from me, you can always email me. If you want to order my hair and body oils, you can always email me. They've been selling off the shelves. I give thanks to the Most High God. There's so many things. I got so many people that's booking readings, okay? And so I'm trying to keep up with all my emails. I'll be able to get to you all as soon as I possibly can. I love you. And if you want to donate to my channel, just check the description box as well. That's where I'll also keep my email. And I'll talk to you all next time.